Hey guys, back with a new video. It's going to be a continuation of my week 1 strategy, or I guess sort of guide, I guess you could say. We already covered the league starter, what I'm doing on league start. We did some mapping and heisting overview, and then how I re-rolled my Scion, how I level her up. And this video, as you can see, we extended the drawing, so now we do have Simulacrum Jail over here. Yeah, so we're going to be in Simulacrum Jail with Officer Kosis and Omniphobia. We'll be there for quite a while, I think. And this video is going to be covering mostly about gear and progression and that kind of stuff. So what kind of gear did I have when I cleared my first wave 30? This league, what kind of gear do I get after that until I basically stop upgrading the character and saving up for the Mageblood. Alright, so let's see. Let's go over to the POB real quick. And so you can see, let's look at some of the stats first of all, so you can kind of compare it to your stats in the league. So this is with everything ticked in the config. We should probably get rid of the Crucible stuff. But yeah, so this is kind of the stats that I usually have when I clear my first wave 30. So this it's not going to be a very easy wave 30 clear. You do have to actually play the game and have a little bit of skill there. But with these kind of stats, you're definitely able to actually clear it. So this config does have a lot of things ticked, like you see we do have 50 rage, and we do have our Vol Smite ticked, and we do have the Berserk ticked. But first of all, in Simulacrum you're pretty much always going to be having these kind of buffs, I think, because you know there's always monsters there and you're always killing, so you're getting all these on kill effects, and you know, you're always getting max rage, all that kind of stuff. But let's just get rid of this to see what the actual like raw stats look like. So 3.2 million DPS, hit DPS is sort of the raw damage numbers if you want to see what it looks like without flasks. And it's about 1.7 million DPS, right? So stats aren't really all that impressive, but you know, even with this, I'm still clearing the wave 30 Simulacrum. Mainly because we do have enough defense. We have all the defense covered, I think, except for the crit damage reduction. I don't have my Watcher's Eye yet. In this setup, I think, yeah. So, no crit damage reduction, so we are still dying from one-shots every now and then. But our EHP is looking very nice. Our resistances are max at 90. Block chance still is pretty much maxed. And let's see, our ES is very low. All right, so we are still using the Alpha's Howl, I think. Yeah, basically ES is kind of low. But these are the kind of stats that you can, when you have this level of gear, you're like pretty much can farm the wave 30 or even, you know, up to 28 pretty comfortably. And I do start doing Simulacrum pretty early, usually around level 80-ish. As soon as I get to red maps, and you know, I can clear red maps and I get all my gear, I get all my clusters slotted and all that kind of stuff, right? I'll just jump into Simulacrum and start farming that, because you know, even if you don't have a lot of gear, you can at least farm past wave 20, maybe like 20, 22, 23, and that's still gonna be, you know, cover the profit of the Simulacrum, and you'll level up a lot faster than just doing maps. So let's see what kind of changed in my gear, first of all, from the starter POB. And there is a couple of things that is different. So first of all, I do have a +2/+1 Doriani's prototype. Now this is kind of like RNG, I guess you could say, because I did double corrupt this myself and I got it pretty early on in the league, so that was pretty cool. And my Vol Smite, you can see we have a 2120 Phantasmal Vol Smite, and this also, I think I got this in the same temple as my chest armor. I just did Doriani's Institute and the Corruption Chamber, and in the same temple I got both. So pretty lucky, you could say. If you want to see what it looks like with just the 2020, it's really not all that much different. Anyways, so I did get that, and let's see. I don't think any of the gems are changed, except if you look at the gems, we are starting to have some little 21 gems. So as you're leveling up in Simulacrum, you can level up some gems in your offhand. Or you just buy them, you know, but you know, you just level up some gems and corrupt them and all that kind of stuff, because gems level up very fast in Simulacrum. We have a level 21 Grace, 21 Discipline, 20, and this is a 2020 Anomalous Wrath. Now, you could actually just go for a normal default level 21 Wrath, That's going to actually be a little bit more damage than the anomalous one, because we don't really have that much aura effect yet. And anyways, so termination is just a default level 20. You can go for a 21 if you have that. I didn't really get it yet. I think purity of ice, this should be level 21 from the start, or you could just buy a bunch of these from the vendor and corrupt them yourself. Defiance banner doesn't really matter if you are getting a level 21. The damage increase is pretty small. I did find a anomalous one on trade for very cheap early on in the league, so I just bought that. And then clarity, vitality. I think I found this while I was heisting the vitality. It's pretty common to find a alternate quality vitality or precision in heist. So, and tempest shield. This is just level 20. And yes, I did find this divergent precision. It's pretty cool. And I did buy the Phantasmal Ancestral Protector because it was only a couple of chaos. I think it was like, I can't remember, but it was very cheap. And that's about it. Molten Shell, I found this in Heist, so I'm just using it. But, you know, the default one is actually better because the anomalous one doesn't really do anything. It's not going to increase the max damage you can take from the Molten Shell. You still can only take up to the limit that it says in the skill, so yeah, don't get baited by this and just use normal Molten Shell. And that's it for the gems. And let's go over the gear. Did we get anything else? So I did get an Eternal Struggle. This one has 16% aura effect, and so that's very nice. And the rest of this gear is pretty much the same. All my flasks are the same. So some important things on the tree. First of all, Divine Shield is gonna be your friend when you have low damage, because yeah, I guess monsters are going to be hitting you for quite a bit, or quite often, because you don't have enough damage to kill them off fast enough. So having Divine Shield and Aegis Aurora is going to completely, you know, negate all of the small to medium hits. And especially useful on Kosis or Omniphobia, because they might hit you sometimes, right? And you might get like an ignite or a bleed, and your energy shield isn't going to recoup to max until their next hit if you don't have Divine Shield. If you have Divine Shield, then they'll hit you and then you'll regen all the way up to full, stuff like that. So definitely recommend use Divine Shield. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the talent tree. One thing to note for when you're playing Simulacrum with this kind of low level gear is you do want to be playing in a certain way, and I did make a video on how to use Smite effectively in Simulacrum, so go check that video out. I'll have a link in the description for that. And but basically we just play around the Vol Smite, and because Vol Smite is pretty amazing and it's going to carry you through Simulacrum, and you definitely need to be using your Vol Smite in you know, in the right time to maximize your DPS basically. Also, when you're fighting the bosses, you want to be bursting them when you have your flasks up, right? So when you want to be using your Berserk and your Totem and your Vol Haste when you know you're going to be getting full uptime on your flasks. So a good time to do this is like when some of the bosses do their multi-hit attacks, like Kosis, he'll do his like fireball attack maybe. That's a really good time to just use your Berserk and use your Vol Haste and just burst the boss down, because they're going to have full flask charges. And if you see, without flasks, our damage is pretty poo-poo, right? So 1.7 million DPS. You're not going to really do much with that. Okay, so that is kind of just some tips, and yeah, so that's the gear. Now let's go over to the second POB. So this is the POB I had when I stopped upgrading and started saving for the Mageblood, right? So you can see we do have quite a bit more damage. And let's just see, what do we do to get this damage? So first of all, you might notice that we do have another Thread of Hope. So this Thread of Hope is actually giving us some damage because, you know, Doriani's prototype, and we get more minus lightning resistance. You see we're at 175. And yeah, so it's like another 1 million DPS kind of, basically. All right, we also went down here because we got more levels. We're level 98 now, so I got all of this in Simulacrum. I'm usually leveling up to level 98 or 99 in Simulacrum, and I'll do the last level or so. Like after I get my Mageblood, I'll just go to a 5-way and get the last 2 levels. All right, so we did get this node here. So this is pretty big on damage. If we take it off, you can see we're at 18 million. So it's about 3 million DPS from this. And I did get a better brutal restraint. So this one does have, I believe it has 16% aura effect. Yeah, so 16% aura effect, and it has Alchemist Genius, which is a pretty good buff. Let's see if we take this off, giving us another 1 million DPS. And I did get Frenzy Charges. Now this time in 3.21 with Crucible, I did get the Frenzy Charge on my sword. And yeah, so this, we won't be able to do this next league, but there is like a betrayal mod you can get on rings where you get like Frenzy Charge on kill, or there is also a Brutal Restraint that has Frenzy Charge on kill that you can get. So you can get, ideally get 16% aura effect and Frenzy Charge on kill. That might be the one of the go-to Brutal Restraints for farming Simulacrum, and I think it might be even better than the 24% aura effect, because you know, another 8% aura effect isn't going to beat 3 Frenzy Charges. Let's just see what the damage looks like when we turn this off. And it's about 18 million, so this is about, what, 3 million DPS. Okay, so after that on the tree, not that much has changed. You can see we did also get a Watcher's Eye, so we got the crit damage reduction, and I got a 1 damage mod with the damage pen with Wrath. This is very strong because it applies after the enemy resistances, right? So the enemy is going to get minus 175 lightning resistance from Doriani's prototype, and then we're going to penetrate that by 13%, so that they'll actually have close to about minus 200% lightning resistance. Okay, so that's it for the tree. Let's go over some of the skills, and you'll probably see that a lot of the damage increases I'm getting is mainly from level 21 gems, some awakened gems, right? And then also some, you can see I did get my 2120 Anomalous Wrath, got our Determination up to level 21. The Evolve Smite, you see I do have some quality on my gems now. I have the Awaken Added Lightning Damage, Awaken Ancestral Call. I didn't really buy the Woke Elemental Damage with attacks because I didn't really need it at the time, but I did get a 2120, so I'm just keeping this. Level 20 Defiance Banner. I did get my Tempest Shield up to level 21. So that's about it for the gems. So we did get some Awakened gems. We got some level 21 gems. And now you can see I did make my Hubris Circlet finally. So this is actually really big for defense. You can see we're at 5k ES right now. And aside from ES, it's the Alpha's Howl actually does give you a little bit more damage, I think, or it's about the same. So we're not really gaining that much damage from the Hubris Circlet, but we're getting quite a lot of ES. Really big for defense. The chest is the same, and when you do get your Hubris Circlet, you want to get a +2 Shaper's Touch, because you're going to have to swap your Purity of Ice into this to make sure it stays at level 23. I guess if you do get a Unveil with the +2 AoE gems, you could do that, but it is kind of expensive to go for those Ashling Unveils this early in the league, so I just like to keep my helmet simple, just do it with the essences and Eldritch Currency, and then get my +2 on the Shaper's Touch. Rings are the same, flasks are the same. So that's about it for upgrades, right? So not really all that much. But you can see we did get quite a bit more damage, basically just from getting a lot of those things. Like, so we got the Frenzy Charges. Let's take off the Rage. If we take off the Alchemist Genius, we go like this. And let's take off the Vol Smite. Let's take off the Vol Haste. You can see I'm not actually using Haste. Don't have enough mana reservation for that, so I'm only using the Vol Haste. And let's take off Berserk. So about 6.6 million. Let's just double check real quick. Yes, okay, so 6.6 million DPS compared to the 3.2 million. So we basically doubled our damage, and just by getting level 21 gems, getting some better gems basically. I don't really think we got that much power from the gear, except from the Watcher's Eye is giving us a bit of damage. And of course the large Thread of Hope to get us, give us some more minus lightning resistance. Alright, so I'll have both of these POBs linked in the description, and I guess I'll also link to the Armor Stacker Compendium, which is going to have a lot of useful info, trade links, all that kind of stuff. Alright, so if you've gotten to this point in your build progression with this type of gear, then you should be able to farm this the Wave 30 Simulacrum with no problem. And you know, you don't really even need to do Simulacrum on Armor Stacker. Armor Stacker is a very flexible build. You can jump into almost any content and perform very well. It's probably not the fastest mapper, I would say, But you can do delve, you can do mapping, you could do boss rushing, you can do bossing. I know a lot of people had a lot of good success doing a conquer invitation farming, so invitation farming is very good too. This kind of gear level isn't really enough to be doing feared, unfortunately. You'll probably need a bit more gear or specialize the build to do that. Feared farming is a little bit hard on this build, mainly because of the Elder and Shaper. They do a lot of damage that you can't negate, and some lightning degen and stuff like that. So anyways, but there is a lot of things you can do on the build, but my version focuses on Simulacrum. Alright, let's talk about Mana Siphoner. So big elephant in the room for any Doriani's build is, don't Mana Siphoners kill you and blah blah blah, right? And yeah, they can kill you, they will kill you, and you're probably gonna have to get used to it. You know, it's something you've learned to play around, and basically that, right? So, but I just want to kind of put things in perspective. So if you're playing Armor Stacker, you're pretty much negating 99% of all of the mobs that would one-shot most other builds, right? So think about like juiced essences, some beasts, you know, what have you, some juiced up arch nemesis, 4 mod rares that are going to be one-shotting other builds, or giving other builds a lot of trouble. Or you have these mods that have mobs that have 75 resistances, and then they have cycling damage reduction, all that kind of stuff, where a lot of other builds just won't actually be able to kill that mob because of the resistance problem. But since we're using Doriani's prototype, that's not really a problem. Like, the damage on Doriani's prototype is always going to be consistent, right? So you're pretty much always going to be putting any kind of mob into the negative resistance for lightning, so you're always going to be getting this. You see on the screen we have 6.6 million DPS. You're always going to be feeling like you're doing 6.6 million DPS because you are going to be doing this damage, right? It's not going to be, your damage isn't going to be changing depending on what mods the different mobs have, right? So there, that is very nice as well. And yeah, so we're eliminating a lot of the problems most builds have, and as a trade-off we have to deal with Mana Siphoner. So kind of something to think about. If you think about it that way, then yeah, it does seem like not all that bad. Just you know, one little mob to worry about, but you get used to them. And okay guys, I think that's going to be it for this video. There's a lot of other things to talk about in Simulacrum, mainly like, you know, what kind of loot do I pick up and how do I sell things and all that kind of stuff. And maybe if you guys are interested, we can make some more videos about I guess that side of Simulacrum, but I wanted to have this one focused on gear and progression. So we're going to end it here. Thanks for watching guys if you got this far. Don't forget to like and sub guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.